Hi everyone, welcome to the House of Lily. It's me, Lily, again in my black clothes, and this time also with Sally.
Definitely Sally, definitely Inner Melbourne, both wearing black, and of course Inner Melbourne and surrounds falls on the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and we pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging for their Aboriginal inhabitants for their unique contributions to diversity on and around all the lands.
Thank you. And today we're talking about identity document, because if you're a trans person, you need to change your name, you need to change your gender. So we should start with the name.
So changing name is relatively straightforward. It shouldn't present too many problems. I'm focusing on the experience of Victoria, given that's where we are, although it's pretty similar in the other states and territories. You can pretty much change your name to anything, so the exceptions are things like words that society might consider swear words or vexatious or something like that, offensive, those sorts of things. And understandably, the Registrar of Births, Deaths and Marriages has a right to refuse that. The things that could happen, and this has happened, where someone maybe sadly has a mark on their credit rating. It doesn't stop you.
It could be me.
I'll just check my balance when we finish. But seriously, it's not a problem if you've got a credit history. The thing that we advise is that to work through with the people where you owe the money and say, look, I am changing my name for this reason. I'm not doing it to avoid debt, and that should get you through. Now, some people might object, why does my creditor need to know? Well, if you're still in a legal relationship with them because you owe money, you've got to do that.
Oh, really?
Well, technically, yes, but always get exact legal advice. But the problem is, whilst we know we're changing our name for the reasons we need to do it for, someone else might see it as evasive. So get some legal advice if you have a credit rating issue about doing it. But that shouldn't in itself be an automatic blockage, is the critical thing. But I know it has come up a couple of times, and that, as I understand it, is the best solution to be upfront.
It's quite straightforward.
It's pretty straightforward. Fill out a form. There can be a fee. There is a fee in all states and territories. That's the nature of government, sadly. But you can probably get some financial assistance from some places. Often, I understand at JobLink, good job agencies have a general allowance. And if having a birth certificate in your right name is going to help you get a job, they can use that allowance to assist you.
Oh my God, that's really helpful. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so there are sort of, we'll say side roads to get you to the destination. So try to, if you are struggling and, if you're, for some reason have to send in a job application and you're presenting as, you're a trans man and you're presenting as Fred and it still says Catherine or something, it's just one less impediment to getting the job and makes life easier. So, try to find ways to get financial assistance if you can.
Yeah, that's really good tips. So now, back to me time, right?
Well, it is the House of Lily, hey?
Yeah, that's right. Last time discrimination is me. Same here. So, because my passport is expired soon, so I need to renew my passport. At the same time, I haven't changed my gender. So I'm thinking I want to change my gender and I don't know where to start. So should I start from my passport?
Yeah, and passports are pretty straightforward thanks to two developments, 2011, where we had some good regulations developed, and also the sex and gender guidelines that followed 2 years later that are based on the same principles, and all federal government departments and agencies have to go by them. So if you want to change your gender in federal government records and the states still insist, say, on surgery, which we'll come to more in a second, if you get a letter from a supportive health professional, say it's me, I know Sally and she lives as female, sign, stamp, etc., that is considered evidence enough, or if you haven't had met the requirements to change your birth certificate first.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty sensible development. that is helpful. Ultimately, I'd be honest and say it would be good if you could just get a stat dec signed by anyone who's known you 12 months, but at least this gives far more flexibility than we used to have. And so in that sense, people are using passports a lot as a critical document. Yeah, you can get an M, an F or an X on a passport, and there's pros and cons about the X.
Is the X, because I know the X is on the New Zealand using it, so is Australia also using the X as well?
Yeah, the X was brought in to be more prominent in that 2011 set of changes, and it's recognised by the IFAO, the International Federation, I think, of Aviation Organisations, or Federated Aviation Organisation, the world body governing flying in plain language. And yes, from a trans and gender diverse point of view, yes, some people, their deep, authentic sense of self is something other than M or F. The problem that can come up is other countries don't understand what the X is and can get inquisitive. And this actually happened in the last 4 weeks, I found out, to a very prominent Victorian who was pulled aside at Los Angeles airport for 2 hours. So, yeah, big issues.
At Los Angeles? Oh my God, there's America.
Well, that's right. They're supposed to recognise and understand this, but it's just, it could be, I'm speculating, was it just any excuse to have a go at someone, or was someone thinking, oh, well, there's no M or F, that sort of thing, this is a bit weird. So, whatever the case, it's an experience. It's sad that, in a world of 210 plus countries or whatever it is, not everyone will be understanding and respectful.
Yeah.
So whilst I can totally respect within oneself the need to have a documentation that matches who you are, you do have to weigh that up considering an X.
Yeah, that's why, I would prefer to have a female on my passport because it just makes everything easier. Because sometimes when you're going to different customs, different countries, as you say, some country can, well, not the country transphobic, but the person on the custom can be transphobic.
well, this is the thing, and I want to actually just go back one step. We mentioned changing the passport, just starting within Australia. I had the experience when I got my first passport since living full-time as female, where I didn't get good service at a particular Australia Post branch. And later on I heard that the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade offices, although it can be a bit of a hike to get into a city or major centre if you're in regional areas, are much better up with this. So you had, as I understand it from what I heard, a very happy experience.
Yeah, it really depends on the person. Because I told you before, when I applied my identity card, in post office, the guys just so friendly, because my passport still stayed at male. But I said, on the identity card, I want to have female. And he just said, okay, no problem.
Yeah. Well, yeah, so it can be lucky, but overall,
just something that you have to be aware with.
Well, that's right, and maybe it's it could be just the first time someone's dealt with a trans person, but probably Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, who look after passports, deal with it more often. It's just the proverbial another day at the office. So if you have got the time, if you can get there, possibly recommended to make an appointment with them.
Okay, after me, right? Now it's for the audience, because this is actually not eligible for this one because you need an Australian birth certificate. Yeah. So let's say you have a sex reassignment surgery and you need to change your gender on your birth certificate.
So changing birth certificates, if you have had to use the language of 6 states and territories, an alteration to your reproductive organs, in plain language genitalia, no question there. That's still the criteria in 6 states and territories. One may be open to interpretation due to a High Court case some years ago, being Western Australia, so check in on that one. They have slightly different wording to the others.
Okay.
But South Australia in 2016 and the ACT in 2014 went ahead of the pack and went on, we'll say, affirmed gender identity. So you don't have to have had surgery if you were born in either ACT or South Australia.
Really?
So they're a bit ahead of the pack and have done other things as well. The ACT, for example, has an option for other than male or female, which is really good.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that, you know.
Yeah, it went through in 2014. A great campaign done there. That's, let's be fair, it's one of the more progressive parts of the country, and of course had the biggest yes vote about 12 months ago. So yeah, they're pretty thoughtful and progressive on those issues. So, but for those here in Victoria, unfortunately, surgery is still the necessary ultimate factor to get the birth certificate changed.
Have issue, where can I find help?
So good resources are always the various human rights and anti-discrimination bodies, one in each state and territory: Victoria, Victorian Equal Opportunity Human Rights Commission, nationally Australian Human Rights Commission. Community legal centres are a great support. A few that stand out: Inner City Legal Centre in Sydney has opened a trans-specific service, which is really good.
Okay.
Yeah. Victoria has 2 LGBTI services, one at Fitzroy which focuses a little more on family law, but one at St Kilda Legal Service which does other areas, so you may need to just check in with both of those. I'm not aware at this stage of other states and territories. That's not to say there isn't. I admit I need to spread my wings over borders or something and check that out, but check in with your wherever you are around the country, and usually they link in. The community legal sector works pretty closely together on lots of stuff.
For this topic, actually download the PDF file from Transgender Victoria, and this is 16 pages here, and include all the resource where you can get more information for help and other stuff as well. So please check out Transgender Victoria.
Our main focus of our information is trans and gender diverse, and to some extent families. One of the areas that we've branched into is diversity training, and we do that doing our best to cover the whole rainbow, balancing the rights of people needing to speak for themselves and with their lived expertise while trying to be inclusive. So yeah, it's a bit of both, but largely our focus is trans and gender diverse. I suppose we've got to mention at the time of recording we have a state election in a couple of months, which if LGBTI issues are of interest to you, consider that carefully. All sorts of things to consider, but most of all, just always remember, be yourself, because everyone else is taken.
And just vote Liberal out. She didn't say it, I said. Alright, thank you very much everyone. I'll see you next time.